clear that the Democratic Alliance has retained and increased its majority, looking from the screen behind us over there. The provincial results, though, the final provincial results are not quite out yet. A short while ago, we spoke to Courtney Sampson, the provincial electoral officer. We asked him when we can expect the final results for the province. Robert.
Look, as soon as we're done, we're busy wrapping up at the moment, and obviously for our own sakes and everybody else's sake, we are going to do that in, very soon. So it's just the last push now, the final push, to get all the results in, captured. That is, when I mean in, I mean captured into the system. So it's a matter of results being in physical paper form and into the system. That's where we are.
Looking at between this year's elections and previous elections, what's your impression of how the whole process has gone from voting, counting, and the final collation of the numbers?
Look, I think that it has been a lot calmer than previous elections. I think that we haven't picked up any major problems in terms of what we haven't dealt with in previous elections. So I think that in terms of that, it's kind of par for the course in terms of elections in the Western Cape.
It's never easy to satisfy all political parties when it comes to elections. There were some issues raised at the beginning of this voting process. Some Ahang leader, Dr. Mamphela Ramphela, had raised concerns about voting in Philippi. The Premier of the Western Cape, the leader of the DA, Helen Zille, also had an impression that things could have gone far better. Are there formal complaints that the Western Cape is dealing with for the IEC?
Not in terms of those two particular issues. I think if you see how we've operated here, we've got all the political parties present, and we've got some very good comments from political parties as well across the board. And the people who are here, they bring the problems that they pick up and that their party members or the public generally raise with them. And I think that the main thing about an election is to be specific. Generalizations don't help. I think if you're dealing with a thing of this magnitude, you're specific about it, you deal with each specific instance, and the issue is really problem solving, making sure that if something is brought to your attention, you deal with it immediately. But there are formal processes that follow, and if there's a formal process, it makes it easier, because then you can respond formally.
From the party agents that are here at the IEC Center with you, what have been the most common issues that they wanted you to resolve?
Look, I think they didn't raise too many issues, except issues like presiding officers not letting people vote with their party colors on. It's those kinds of things. Those are easy to correct. Most of these things, the people sitting here are in direct contact with the presiding officers. They can speak to them. We can send a bulk SMS, if that is required. So I think that in terms of where we've picked up those little issues, we were able to deal with them effectively.
The Western Cape had the highest number of political parties registered to contest elections this year. How has that affected the operations of the IEC in terms of logistics, finances and staffing?
Not much. Just more voices to listen to and more people to satisfy. And you mentioned earlier that it's very difficult to please all political parties. I would maybe disagree with you. It's impossible. Because I think the expectations are different, and people have different views as to what they would want to achieve. There's high emotion involved, people, and I have met good people in all the political parties. I think that we engage with one another well, and we build up relationships over the past couple of months. And I think we've had excellent cooperation from the political parties here.
Well, to talk to us about voting patterns in the Western Cape province now, we're joined by Zwelethu Jolobe from the University of Cape Town. Zwelethu, the DA has managed to increase its majority in the Western Cape. What would you attribute that to?
There are two reasons, really. Voter turnout, in the sense that the DA was able to get their people out to vote on the day. And number two, party organization. In the last 5 years or so, the DA has been able to grow, and with that growth, they have been able to build quite a formidable party machine. With that, you will then be able not only to get your members out to vote on the day, but you're able to showcase yourself in a way that cements your position as the main party.
The ANC put up quite a strong campaign. It was determined to wrestle the province from the DA, but somehow, with the results that are out now, it doesn't look like that's yielded much results. What could have gone wrong, or what was missing from their campaign?
I don't think anything went wrong from the point of view of the ANC. I think that in this campaign they did everything right, and that if one looks at the ANC from the last 5 years or so, they have been able, or they have resolved a lot of their fundamental issues. And so I think that at the moment, the ANC is at that point where they are rebuilding. And so even though they perhaps didn't win the province, they are in a much better position than they were 5 years ago.
One more challenge, though, is the EFF. The EFF has made a big start nationally. Provincially, they've now got to sit in the legislature. Can we now start taking them seriously in the Western Cape province?
I think that the EFF is definitely it was the dark horse. And I think that they have put on a very good national showing. However, we have to always approach these things with caution, because if you recall, 5 years ago, COPE was also in the very same position, in the sense that, COPE broke away from the ANC. They were able to have a reasonable level of showing, but the issue that they had was building party organization after the election. That is the massive variable, in the sense that it's all well for one to get one seat in parliament, but the important thing is what happens after that. Meaning, how do you build your internal party organization in such a way that the party can outlast its current leadership? That is the key issue for them at the moment.
One thing that baffles my mind: the Western Cape province has always been a difficult province for all parties to contest and win. Yet this year it's recorded the highest number of political parties contesting at 26. What, in your opinion, what is it that keeps parties coming back to the Western Cape, even the smaller parties that could better invest their resources elsewhere?
The Western Cape is a competitive multi-party system in which you've had regular turnovers in government. You've had coalitions, you've had governments being removed mid-term, and all those things, which means that the party system here is very, very fluid. And what that does is that encourages people to say, well, even though on the surface I might have an outside chance, at least I might just be able to make that crack in. Why? Because voters don't have segmented views. Voters here change from cycle to cycle, depending on how they perceive party performances, party organizations, and all those things. And so once you have those kinds of broader conditions, it encourages people to form parties and to make different decisions.
Zwelithini, thank you very much for joining us. That's Zwelithini Jolobe from the University of Cape Town. Well, with the final results due shortly around noon, this has to be our final goodbye from the Western Cape. It's back to Pretoria.
Asanda, thank you so much again for